Hello, my name is Holly Johnson with AST, here with Phil Richards from Ivanti. How are you doing today?
Hi, Holly. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. What do you view as today's biggest cybersecurity threat?
Well, interestingly, today I think some of the biggest cybersecurity threats are generated as a company needs to try to deal with and figure out how to handle their own individual corporate security assets. One of the biggest challenges is identifying what those things are and how to protect them, which might be a little bit different than just handling the run-of-the-mill security the run-of-the-mill security kind of questions that a lot of companies have to deal with.
What does Ivanti do to address these threats?
At Ivanti, we have a lot of different software that helps address these kind of threats. One of the chief components of this happens to be our asset management program. So we'll help an organization identify the laptops and the computers and servers and mobile devices that need protecting.
Where are organizations doing a good job in protecting themselves today?
Well, I think where companies are doing a pretty good job is when they're dealing with the general kind of threats around security. So most companies know that they need to put some sort of an antivirus program in place. Most companies know that they need to encrypt hard drives and restrict certain kinds of access, that sort of thing. And I think they're doing a good job of that.
Okay. Where do you see the biggest holes in the systems that are in place today?
Honestly, it comes again from an organization needing to understand what their specific kind of risks are. So in order to be able to do that, they need to understand what their own crown jewels are and how they need to protect those. And that's where an organization, I think, really needs to dive a little bit deeper in the security space and figure out how they need to protect those things.
Well, how does Ivanti address those risks, and how would your company provide solutions for companies who need to assess those risks and deal with them?
Yeah. So in addition to the asset management software that we have, Ivanti also has a whole suite of security solutions that help address these kind of issues. So it includes everything from antivirus and configuration management, as well as permission management. So it allows you, as a user, for example, to run applications that you need to run on your system without elevating your privileges to the point where maybe an attacker might be interested in using your user ID to attack the rest of the environment, that kind of thing. So Ivanti has a lot of solutions that help kind of protect against those kind of things. In addition, one of the things that Ivanti software does is we have what's known as a master boot record defense. And what that does is, I don't know if you've heard, there's a specific virus or ransomware that came out a little while ago called Petya. And that actually attacked this master boot record. So by simply having this solution in place, it would have arrested that particular ransomware from being able to attack your systems.
What were the outputs or the outcomes of that virus for the general population and the various companies that were attacked?
Well, that particular one ended up being very much targeted at the country of Ukraine. And as a result, it actually brought down most of the infrastructure in the Ukraine for several days. People had a hard time paying for food at grocery stores. They couldn't catch flights at airplanes, and train schedules were impacted. A lot of the critical infrastructure in the Ukraine was very highly compromised as a result of that particular attack.
What makes up a good security strategy from your company?
Well, I think a good security strategy has to include kind of the combination of two things. You need to have common best practices, which are really common across the whole industry, and that includes some of the things that we talked about. Having an antivirus solution, encrypting hard drives, making sure that only known good wireless devices and mobile devices like phones make it onto your corporate network, that kind of thing. Those are the kind of things that I think most companies know about and do a fairly good job of. It needs to include an ability to understand what's important for your organization. Like I said before, what are the crown jewels of your organization? How do you identify those crown jewels, and how do you protect them? Which might be different than simply adding antivirus and some of the kind of the generic and relatively easy sort of things to do.
Okay. So in today's world, we're spread out globally. How do you deal with multiple sites and locations and securing them all together and ensuring that your software and your solutions work across multiple locations and campuses?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the things that's real difficult or challenging to do, I think, in this kind of space is to make sure that if a PC shows up in New York City one day and then in Tokyo the next day, trying to make sure that that's the same PC and that we know for sure that that is actually moved. And of course, in our workplace, we have machines that do move all over the globe. We have virtual servers that come online and go offline constantly, that kind of thing. Keeping up with the movement of those assets and identifying and registering new assets as they pop up is a particular challenge. At Ivanti, we have some great software solutions that allow you to do that. Not only do systems register as soon as they jump on to the Ivanti into that workspace kind of environment, but the entire network will scan for new devices as they come up as well. So between the two of them, it does a fantastic job of kind of collecting that information and making sure that we know what those assets are.
And those notifications would appear on your phone or on your laptop. They would pop up and ask you questions if you're actually the person who's trying to access the information.
Actually, no. The software does it all behind the scenes. So if you are an administrator of the software, then you get a console that shows you where the assets are and things like that, and it keeps track of all that stuff for you. But it doesn't interrupt your day. It doesn't bother you with asking where you're located or anything like that. The software registers with the server and does all that in the background for you.
Okay. So how would the IT or the solution alert the company that there is a threat, and then how would that be managed?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that the software alerts for threats. It monitors several different types of threats, but the nice thing about it is it all goes through a single console. So when a particular asset is compromised or threatened or has something that goes wrong with it, there's a list of both automated and manual tasks that the IT operations guys can do in order to resolve that or remediate that kind of a problem. Everything from running a virus scan to re-imaging the machine to taking a backup for forensic analysis later. All of those kind of solutions and options are available. Some of them, and all of them, in fact, can be run in an automated fashion, or you can do it manually, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to do.
So that would affect different size organizations. So this solution would be appropriate for smaller organizations, larger organizations. You'd have solutions that fit different people's needs.
Right, exactly. We have solutions that will scale all the way down to a couple of, a few dozen devices, and we're running on networks that have, hundreds of thousands of machines running on them. So, yeah, it does scale quite well.
The GDPR regulations that have come out in Europe, how are they affecting your business, and how do you expect them to expand around the globe and affect your growth?
Yeah, GDPR is really interesting. It really affects privacy law and privacy regulations for a lot of companies that do business in Europe. For a company like Ivanti, our intention is to be compliant with those laws globally, worldwide, rather than just in our European sector and things like that. And the GDPR's laws are very interesting. It's kind of a different take on security. Here in the United States, security tends to be focused around what we in the industry call CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which are services that security kind of provides. And privacy is all about protecting the end customers. And so in Europe, the privacy regulations are kind of focused around 7 different tenets of privacy law, and those drive different kinds of regulations and requirements into the security space than the traditional or the U.S.-based traditional CIA kind of view does that. So it adds a few things that need to be taken care of, and as I said at Ivanti, we plan on doing that globally to make sure that we're covering everybody's privacy worldwide.
Yeah, I understand that the deployment of that is a large task. Is that affecting your overhead significantly, or is it something that's relatively simple for you to implement?
Yeah, it's a good question. Being compliant with the law requires some amount of overhead kind of work. There's a lot of legal work involved. There's a lot of notification involved, both of our customers and of our employees, things like that. So there's a number of things that are going on that will be, new and recurring kind of annual sort of activities. But after the first time, they'll become a normal part of how we do business.
And is there a certification process involved to prove that you are effective in managing these the regulations?
GDPR does not necessarily require certification; it's a self-attestation. But at the same time, there are certification groups or auditors. It's kind of like having an accountant do your taxes. You don't have to, but it's nice to have those guys with you when you're in front of the IRS. And so Ivanti is doing that. We're making sure that we have a body that's helping us with our compliance characteristics.
Is there anything else that you would like to add or discuss with us today?
Well, just that Ivanti is real excited to be here. I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of get more involved in this particular industry, and we're excited to be part of the team.
Yes. We're thrilled to have you here. Thank you very much.